Hello there, this is Sarah Glander. Welcome back. I have a question for you. Do you dream sometimes of just waking up late, enjoying a relaxing morning with your tea, spending your days with family or on hobbies or traveling and just enjoying life? Well, my name is Sarah Glander. I'm a business and balance coach, and I built my first business when I was 19 years old, and I made all the mistakes. I did everything wrong in the beginning. I used to just work constantly. I would take client calls 24/7, right? People were always blowing up my phone. I had no such thing as office hours, right? I was doing all the work myself. And then even once I'd hired a team, I didn't know how to manage them. I didn't know how to train them. So they were performing poorly. They did a terrible job. I got refund requests. I had clients coming out my ears, and I still wasn't making enough money. And I had no idea what I was doing, right? And my team drove me crazy 7 days a week, even when I wasn't working, quote unquote. I was always working. So that sounds like you. I want to share with you something special I have coming up. It is a 5-day challenge that is going to be launching right here on Facebook, August 15th through the 19th. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it at the end of today's workshop, but before I do, let's get into the topic for today, which is the quickest path to early retirement for business owners. Traditional retirement advice given by most of the financial advisors out there is that you should combine things like a pension or an employer match on your 401k with things like Social Security and your own personal savings, right? That's kind of the whole plan that you hear out there. And this is what most of us are doing. We're putting money in a 401k or putting money in a Roth IRA or an IRA. We're saving towards retirement, and we're hoping that Social Security will support us in our old age, right? There's a few cons to this strategy, right? Pros and cons. The cons are saving is hard, especially when you're in the beginning stages of business, but even later on. I have 7- and 8-figure business owners who come to me with profitability issues, right? Especially in that 6-figure range. You know what I'm talking about. Like, you just finally hit your first 100K a year and you still aren't paying yourself more than $10, $12 an hour, right? And the other con with this whole strategy is that investing can be kind of risky. If you've been watching the stock market recently, your 401k is kind of going like this, right? Like up and down, and it's a little bit scary sometimes. And what happens if the year when you want to retire, the stock market crashes? All of your life savings are basically gone and you have nothing to live off of, right? That is a super risky way to do business or to retire, right? The other con with this is that Social Security is actually very underfunded. I don't know if you know this, but it's likely that within my generation, I'm a millennial, it's likely that within my generation, Social Security will actually run out of money. This is not me trying to scare you, right? This is just the facts of the economy that we live in today. So if that is not the best strategy for retirement, then what is, right? What is a better method that we can use as business owners? And you're probably wondering, like, why is Sarah talking about retirement? I thought she's a business coach. Well, what's great is that as business owners, we actually have access to retirement strategies that employees do not have. So today I want to talk to you about that and how to use the fastest method to go from wherever you are right now to early retirement, okay? Let's talk about this and dive in a little bit. The new retirement plan that a lot of people are taking advantage of, whether they're employees or business owners, is to create financial freedom instead of trying to save or invest your way to retirement, right? So instead of trying to save up enough money and have it grow in a 401k so that you can then live off of your savings the rest of your life, we're just creating financial freedom. What is financial freedom? Financial freedom is when your passive income exceeds your expenses. So this means you're free, right? Like, you're free with your time. You can relax. You can spend your morning however you want to. You don't have to go to work anymore. You do not have to work to make income because you have passive income streams. Usually we want to apply good financial principles to that. So we're going to diversify your passive income streams. Don't just have like one, right, that pays your expenses. You want to have like multiple and stuff like that. And this is a strategy that anyone can use, whether you're a business owner or not. So why did I say that business owners have an extra special pathway to financial freedom? Well, let's talk about that for a second. What do business owners have that employees do not? Well, I call it claiming your crown, becoming a queen bee or a king bee in your business. In other words, you're going to escape the worker bee mentality by building a really high performance team and the systems of your business to automate things and make it so that other people do that work, not you. So now you move up and you own the business. You don't run or manage the business. So let's talk about this for a second. Here we have, I hope you guys can see my screen, right? We have worker bees. So worker bees are the ones who actually get the work done themselves. Right now, you might be being a worker bee in your business. This might be you. If this is you, I want you to comment in the chat for me. I am a worker bee, right? You're a solopreneur. You're doing all the work yourself. If a client calls, you're the one who answers the phone. If the client needs a project done, you're the one who does the project. You're also selling, you're also marketing yourself, you're also building out your automation. You are the one who gets everything done, right? That's being a worker bee. Comment in the chat if you are a worker bee right now. Above that, we have a strata of business owners who are what I call manager bees. So manager bees have learned the trick, right? They've hired a team and have trained them, and they are now managing them. They are getting others to get the work done. That's what a manager does. They get other people to get the work done. So if you have a team underneath you right now, but you are still the one who has to get them to get the work done, then you have not achieved queen bee status yet, right? You are down here being a manager bee. There's nothing wrong with this. There's no status that comes with this, right? We're just talking about retirement. Retirement, financial freedom, when you can actually step away from work and you no longer have to work in exchange for money because you're providing value that is not tied to your time. Let me repeat that. You're providing value that's not tied to your time. So some people have this concept, right? That like, oh, it's unethical. It's out of exchange. It's bad or evil or yucky to have passive income. The people who say that just don't understand what passive income is. Passive income is not get rich quick schemes. It's not ripping people off, okay? It's simply an exchange of value for value that's not tied to time, okay? So this person who's being a manager bee is still trading time for money. They're just also managing, right? Like the time that they're spending is on management. It's not on the actual worker bees. So how do we get out of that? How do you truly retire as a business owner without selling your business, right? That's one method. You can certainly just sell the business, but that comes back into the realm of, well, I saved up or I invested my money, now I can retire. Like you could just sell the business and have this lump sum and then put that lump sum in your savings or put that lump sum in your 401k or in your IRA or in an annuity or something like that and live off the money. That is one way to retire. Nothing wrong with that method, right? Nothing wrong with it at all. It's one method that a lot of people use. I have even used that, right? I have sold businesses before, and using that money, I've gone and relaxed for years, right? Without having to actually work because my bills are being paid, right? So that is one method to retire. The other method, the one I'm talking about, is actually faster than that. Because the problem with that strategy is you have to build up a business to the point where someone would want to buy it, right? Like you can't just like start a business today and then retire tomorrow. Like it doesn't work that way, right? But with this strategy, this one right here that I'm talking about, where we become a queen bee, you're moving up in the business, not out. You're not exiting the business at all, really. You're still retaining full ownership. But what we do is we hire and train and onboard and manage the manager bees. So you're going to hire worker bees, manage them. Then you're going to create a system and a process and a job description for your manager role. And then you're going to hand that over to a manager, like a CEO type person who's going to run the day-to-day of your business, and you step back and just own it, right? This is why people like Warren Buffett, other investors, like they own a lot of businesses. They don't run and manage all of those businesses. They just own them. They're an investor in their own business, right? That allows you to walk away and still retain the revenue that you're making, right? You still get that profitability and you get that check in the mail every week, right? Or every month. So how do we do this? I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can really see my slide because I know that's kind of small. There we go. How do we do this? We have to somehow find a way, right, to turn our employees into stable pillars of the company, okay? So a stable pillar, what is a pillar? A pillar is something upon which you can rest something, right? So if I'm going to try to build a business and the pillars are wobbly, my business is not going to be very stable, right? So we want to turn these employees into stable pillars of the company. What is a stable pillar? How do I define that, right? How do I know if my employee is a stable pillar? Well, a stable pillar is defined as someone whom you could turn your back on knowing full well the work would get done, right? So if a worker bee is a stable pillar, that means they're getting the work done with a minimal amount of oversight needed. Doesn't mean you don't need managers at all, because management is actually important, right? But we're not micromanaging them anymore. We're not constantly breathing down their necks going, have you done the next task? Have you done the next task, right? No, you're away, you're gone. Ooh, they're self-contained unit, right? Getting productivity done. So in August 15th through 19th, I'm going to be running a challenge to teach you how to do these steps 1 through 6. We already did a workshop on how to hire the right person. If you need the replay to that, let me know. But this upcoming challenge is specifically for people who already have a team and they're not happy with the performance of that team. So I'm going to teach you how to onboard the person correctly. So we're setting expectations correctly from day one. I'm going to teach you how to train them on their position so they become competent and strong, and you don't have to repeat yourself again and again and again and again and again to get things done, right? We teach you how to do executive inspections so that there is oversight, but also so that the employees feel like they have a voice. That's a big issue that we run into, is when you do have a high performance person and they come into a team, but they feel like they have no voice and they feel like they have no upward growth, right? They have nowhere to go. They quickly stagnate and they leave. They're not happy to be there, right? So we have to make sure that if we're going to attract a high performance team, we keep them as a high performance team and make them happy to work for you. Then thorough and consistent job reviews. How do we deal with it when an employee is not meeting expectations? Do we just yell at them and decide that they must be lazy and it's all their fault and blame the employee? No, right? That's not responsible. So I'm going to show you how to take full responsibility for your employees and make sure we're setting them up for success, and then how to manage them, right? How to truly manage your team. And lastly, how to apply disciplinary and troubleshooting correctly. So sometimes things come up, right? Their home life starts to impinge on their work, or they start to feel actually genuinely lazy. They're not getting things done when they could, right? Those types of things come up sometimes with employees. And if you don't know how to deal with it correctly, you could blow off good employees and lose them, or you could end up retaining all the wrong employees and have this toxic company culture that makes it just this gross to come to work every day and nobody enjoys it anymore, right? We don't want that. So this is what the 5-day challenge is going to be all about. It's August 15th through 19th, all right? I want you guys there. This is going to be wonderful. So let me tell you a little bit more about what we're going to be covering on those days. Hold on, let me get my mouse in the right place. Boop. There we go. Okay, so day one, I'm going to show you how to reprogram the minds of your team. Because right now you've set expectations that are causing them to act the way they are. Okay, you have to own that. You have to recognize that at least 50% of the problem you have with your employees is you. If that weren't true, you would not have the problem you have, right? It can't be that it's always the employee's fault. So I'm going to show you how to reprogram their minds and also your own, so you can start really building a genius team, right? Speaking of genius, day 2, I'm going to talk about the 24 characteristics of genius. What's really interesting about this is that Dr. Alfred Barrios, he was a clinical psychologist, and he actually did a study where he found that he did a study of the most well-known famous geniuses in the world, right? Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, right? Like all these people who are very, very, very well known as geniuses. And what he found was that they had these 24 characteristics in common, but that's not what was so interesting. What was so interesting was he also found that anybody can develop those characteristics in themselves. And he developed a technique for how to do it, which is really fascinating. And actually, Mr. Hubbard got Dr. Alfred Burris's permission to republish those 24 characteristics of genius in one of his articles. So if you guys are interested in learning the 24 characteristics of genius and how they get implemented in companies like pharmacyclics, like Postcard Mania, I've done this with some 7 and 8 figure companies. We've gone in and we've implemented these 24 characteristics of genius in their team and watched the statistics just go boom, like right up, straight up and vertical. Amazing growth in these companies and smoothing out things like toxicity, confrontational conversations with employees, things like that, smoothing out of the way because we've got these employees actually thinking like geniuses and wanting to display that characteristic, right? So that's what we're going to talk about on day 2. I'm going to show you the techniques for how to actually implement this with your team. Day 3, I'm going to talk about how to troubleshoot team behavior. So just because we've set the expectations doesn't mean they're always met, right? So when they're not met, what do we do? And how do we differentiate between an employee who's doing it incorrectly on purpose and an employee who's doing it incorrectly because they haven't been trained well enough? And how do we address those two very different scenarios? Because if you mix the two together, you're going to have a hot mess, honestly, right? Day 4, I'm going to teach you how to discipline employees. So maybe you find someone who actually is knowingly violating company policy, someone who is actually toxic and genuinely trying to do the wrong thing. What do we do? Is our only recourse to just fire them, right? That could be time and money on that you don't necessarily want to spend, right? So if we can avoid firing them by actually changing their behavior, wouldn't it be cool if there was a tool to do that? Guess what there is? And that tool is discipline. I'm going to show you how to discipline employees correctly in a way that doesn't squash them, doesn't make them feel like and suppressed, right? But also in a way that is effective and gets results. Because we can't just be like, oh, please don't do that, because not everybody's going to respond to that request, right? Day 5, I'm going to teach you the secret for how to build a team you can step away from. So up until day 4, you probably have heard some of these things. Maybe you know some of them, maybe you don't. It might not be new material for you. I guarantee you on day 5, you're going to learn something new, something you have never heard before. And it's going to make and break your ability to actually build a business you own, not one you work in. Okay, so this is going to be a fantastic challenge. I would love to have you there. Like I said, it's going to be happening in August. August 15th is the first day of the challenge. So if you're interested in getting tickets to this, they're free. I would love to welcome you inside. Go ahead and comment challenge below, and I will make sure you get the link, okay? Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will talk to you guys next week.